Hello, welcome to this video in which we're going to be taking a look at teaching computer science in years 5 and 6. Now within here what I'm going to be showing you is that the main areas of development within the Purple Mash scheme of work are really through encouraging children to think about efficient coding through the use of functions and giving them the opportunity to deal with more complex issues through basically dealing with more actions and events. So let's take a look at what are children coming into year 5 and 6 with. Well, children should come along with the idea of what variables are. So in this top line here we can see that we've created a variable, it's a number, it's called count and it's got a value of 0. So variables are a storage space within the computer. They're its working memory, just like we use working memory to keep count or to remember a shopping list. This is how we set up the computer to do that. They should also know about events. So for example, in this case here, when we press the space key, it's going to add 1 onto the value of count. Children should understand that this is happening because count is tucked in underneath, or it's indented beneath the when key space is pressed. They should also know about selection as well. So if the count equals 3, then we're going to make the sound of the clicking finger 1 time. And again, they should know that this sound event here is triggered by the if condition being true. They should also be able to do some debugging. So if I run this program here, then press space down in the bottom here, we can see that count is 0, and I press count, press the space bar, and it's gone up to 1, 2, 3, and I've never had the clicking finger. And a child should be able to look at this and tell us why. They should be able to spot that we want to do the if check every time we press the space bar. So now 0, 1, 2, 3, and we got the clicking sound, because every time I press the space bar it's adding 1 to the variable and it's doing the if check as well. And they're on the same level of indentation, which is why we can say and. So children should come along with ideas like this. They should also be able to use the blocks over here for repeat and timer as well. So when we get into year 5 and 6, we're starting to think about this idea of efficient coding, and children come across this in the catcher game here. And there's a stage here where it says when the catcher collides with any weight, play a sound and restart the game. So if I just jump into design mode here, you can see here's the catcher and here's weights and vegetables and fruit which are going to be falling down the screen. And we've got it set up so that when we press arrow keys left or right, the catcher moves. So on here I want to use a collision detection. So far nothing new for the children here. So when the catcher collides with any weight, we want to play a sound, and that can be any sound. So we'll just click on the question mark there and perhaps have a bell. And this is where it's new, and restart the game. So we've got a block here that we've not seen before. This isn't a standard block in 2 code. It just says restart. But what we're doing here is we're giving the children the idea that we can have one block that will actually do quite a few different things. Because if we just watch this happen now, when the catcher hits a weight, a couple of things have happened. The catcher returns to the starting position and gets the speed reset to 0, so the catcher's not moving. So a couple of things have happened. We've changed the coordinates, the location of the start of the catcher, and we've changed the speed. And that's all somehow wrapped up in this button here called a restart. Now later on in the scheme, the children come across this again, which we'll take a look at in a moment or two. So children are introduced to the idea of creating these functions that can lead to efficient coding in the functions activity. So let's take a look at how that works. The first stage that we have in here is to create a variable. So we drag the create variable block on here, and we're offered 3 types: a number, a string, which remember is just a kind of text, or a function. And the function is, we can give it a name here. So I'm going to call it print and sound, because that's what we're going to get out of this. And then we press play. So we've set up that storage space in the computer in its working memory. We've just not put anything in there. So That's our next job. Click the yellow arrow, next challenge. And it's asking me here, print something and play a sound. So let's print to the screen, just say hello everyone. And we'll play a sound as well. I think it's important that you do them in the right order it's asked, otherwise it won't get marked correctly. So we press play now. And now what happens when we run this program is it creates the storage space in the computer's memory and it stores these two instructions in it. Notice there's nothing on the screen and we haven't heard the finger click yet. So in the next challenge we're going to learn how to activate those functions, and we do that by dragging the change variable block on. And when I release this, I've only got one variable called print and sound. So it's popped up as a suggestion, print and sound, and the only thing I can do with it is call it. Now call it means we're going to call on the computer to execute the instructions within that function. So when I press play now, we should see hello everybody on the screen and hear the finger click. And there you can see it's happened as hoped. So in the next challenge, we can see that we can do that again very easily just by repeating the call. So we don't have to type out the instructions repeatedly. We can just call print and sound and it will carry out these instructions whenever we just put this block in here. And then we have it. So that's a nice simple way of introducing the idea of storing instructions and calling on them to make the computer execute them. This is brought to life in the activity, the football challenge, which children come across in year 5 and 6. And in the football challenge, I'm at a stage now where we need to call a function to reset the ball. So we've got this situation here where we've got a football and we can flick it around, and we want it to go back to its starting position whenever it hits one of the purple walls. We're also later on going to want to bring it back to its starting position, not just when we hit the walls, but when we score a goal or hit the goalkeeper or even hit the goalposts. So it's a set of commands that we're going to want to reuse. So let's look at how we go about that. So we're setting the football's X and Y coordinates to the starting position and give it its speed of 0, similar to what we saw happening in the catcher game. Then we want to call on that whenever the football collides with the wall. So we've got our event here, drag the change variable box inside the event and say we want to call the reset. So we press play. And now if I get the ball to hit a wall, it goes back to its starting position with 0 speed. Great. So what happens next is when the ball hits the goal, we want to involve that in what happens then. So we have another event for collision detection of when the football collides with the goal. We want to first of all play a sound. So let's have a cheer there. We want to increase the number of goals, which is the score. So let's click on add there. And then lastly, we want to change the variable. We want to call the reset. So let's press play here. Can I score a goal? I hope so. It's an open goal. Yep. So that's worked as hoped for there. So far, we've typed this function in here to store the instructions in, and we've called on them in 2 different circumstances. Once if the football collides with the walls, or secondly if we score a goal. And the rest of this activity makes use of this again a couple of times, as you'll see as I just go through completing the coding now. So when we're giving the goalie a speed greater than 0, I'm just thinking the goalie is there from the start of the game. So I'm going to give the goalie his speed right at the beginning. So goalkeeper speed, step 2. I tend to find that numbers 1 to 5 work well here. I've seen plenty of children who want to set the goalie speed to 600,000 or something, which means their goalie is going way quicker than the ball is and they won't score a goal. So keep the numbers 1 to 5 there. Will certainly help the children to succeed in this and enjoy it. The next thing that we want to do is to, when the goalie collides with a goalpost, so we're going to have a collision detection. Goalie collides with any goalpost. We want to multiply the goalie's speed by by -1, which reverses the direction of the goalkeeper. So let's just press play there, and the goalie's bouncing around there between the goalposts when he collides with them, which is great. The next thing that we want to do now is when the ball collides with the goalie or the goalpost, to reset the ball. So we've got 2 resets here, so let's get those in. So just looking through this, now you can see that we've called for this reset in several different circumstances: when the football collides with the goalie, when the football collides with either goalpost, when the football collides with the goal, or if the football collides with the walls. So this is much more efficient because we've only had to type the instructions in once and store them in the storage space in the function called reset, and we can just run them by typing reset call into the boxes here. Also, if we decided that we wanted the ball to go to another place, we only have to edit it once in this function, and then all 4 times that it's used will be updated through this one. So it's a nice and efficient way of coding, and this is new in year 5 and 6. So another thing that children can get progression with in year 5 and 6 is complexity, in terms of just having lots of things going on. And this text adventure game here is a great example of that. You're in a room with doors to the east, north and south. The south door is locked. Which way would you like to go? Now this basically is one of those sort of old-fashioned style text games that we used to have when computers didn't really have graphics, but they're great fun, and they're quite a challenge because you need to build up a mental map as you're using them. They're also quite interesting because, as you can see here, there is a lot of coding going on within it. And if we're going to introduce children to looking at code like this, or even writing it themselves, then there's a couple of things that we can do to help them to focus on it. And something that I like to do is I'll often encourage the children to just cover up part of the screen with a piece of paper so that they can get better focus on it. So, because sometimes they can't see the wood for the trees, so sometimes I might just ask them to do something like I'm doing here with a screen tool, but just with a piece of paper. So cover up part of the screen and then just look through it one line at a time, and this can help children to focus on one line at a time, think about what's happening in here in the line that they're looking at without being distracted by the rest of it. So definitely worth a go. I've found this a really, really helpful tip just to support children with their focus. The other thing that I've found useful with children is giving them, particularly when they're getting onto more complex things like the text adventure here, is giving them opportunity to have things on paper. So we give you, in the scheme of work here, the code for this text adventure on paper so that children can look through it and understand it and make notes on it. And I'd certainly encourage you to give paper to children so that they can make notes themselves or scribble down ideas. It can help them with their working memory. When there's a lot going on, like you can see on this code window here, then just having that opportunity to jot an idea down or to highlight something on the paper is going to be a real support to them. So it just takes me back to this first screen here where we've got those ideas written down. And the last idea that I tend to find helps with supporting learning is partner support. So getting children to work in a pair where you can have one of them being the hands on the computer who's thinking about where the blocks go and so on, and the other child might be taking perhaps a little bit more of a navigator's view and thinking, actually, how does this all fit together? That can work really well. And just getting children to explain their ideas to each other often clarifies their thinking as well, particularly when you get lots of things going on as you do within the Year 6 challenges. So I hope that you found all that useful, and I hope that you will enjoy teaching coding with Year 5 and 6 children. Thanks very much for watching today. Bye-bye.